Welcome to IB Made Simple. My name is Philip, and we will be going through topic 2.8, market failure, focusing on externality. What is market failure? Market failure is a situation where the free market fails to allocate resources efficiently, resulting in a suboptimal outcome for society. So, this definition is actually really good for what we're going to be talking about in the diagrams, because what the government wants is the output to be equal to the socially optimal quantity, right? So, what is best for society at a given period of time. The causes of market failure can include negative externalities of consumption and production, positive externalities of consumption and production, as well as the under-provision of public goods. The first diagram we will be analyzing is the negative externality of production diagram. So what we see is that the margin, this basically stands for marginal private cost, marginal private benefit, marginal social benefit, and marginal social cost. So as we see, there is the Q-opt, which stands for the socially optimal quantity, and the QE, which is the equilibrium price. The equilibrium price is defined when marginal private cost intersects the marginal private benefit, because this is where the consumers are consuming, where they are ignoring the external costs or benefits. In this case, it's costs of their consumption. While the socially optimal quantity is where marginal social cost intersects marginal social benefit. And as we see, this is a negative externality of production, so the marginal social cost is lower than the marginal private cost. Therefore, there is a negative externality indicated by this arrow. Now, the government might want to, and they will want to intervene in order for QE to move to Q-opt. There are many ways in which they can do that, which we will go through later. So the key point to understand here is that when marginal social cost is lower than marginal private cost, that results in a negative externality. And the deadweight loss is this red triangle right here. The negative externality of consumption. This is the most important one for your exams, microeconomics IAs. This is the one you're going to be encountering the most. So we see that the marginal private benefit is greater than the marginal social benefit. That means that the unintended consequences of that consumption, the external costs, are greater than the private benefits. So essentially, a great example of this is, for example, smoking cigarettes, where people do get their private utility. Well, the smoke goes into the air and therefore pollutes the environment in which other people live in, and they inhale third-party smoke, damaging their health. It's pretty important to mention as well that MPC and MSC are kept equal. Why? It's because we are focusing on consumption, right? So this is a way of isolating an effect, right? So we're trying to only focus on the consumer side of the market, not the producer side. A way in which the government could intervene here is through introducing a tax. Therefore, supply is going to shift left, and the quantity that is most optimal for society will be achieved. Next, we have the positive externality of production. This is a really rare one. I would really be surprised if you got this on the exam. It essentially means that a production of a product or something has positive effects on third parties. So for example, beekeeping, right? So the bees they go around and collect pollen and stuff, and they help. I don't really know how to describe it, but you get the point. And it's the exact same concept. There is essentially the marginal social cost is greater than the marginal private cost, right? Therefore, there's a positive externality. Yeah, and MPV and MSP is equal because we are focusing on the producer side of the market. Positive externality of consumption. So this is, for example, when we are dealing with vaccines, right? So someone taking a vaccine it'll have a positive effect on third parties as well, because let's say a disease won't spread as fast, etc. Marginal social benefit is greater than the marginal private benefit because there's obviously these external benefits from getting vaccinated. In this case, the equilibrium quantity is lower than the quantity that is socially optimal, and therefore the government is going to want to increase its output. And this can be done through ways I'm actually going to go through right now. So, solutions to address market failure. The most important one to remember is indirect taxes, right? So indirect taxes can affect negative externality of production, consumption, not positive externalities. So it's really simple, it's just introducing a tax which shifts supply to the left and therefore brings the quantity closer to the socially optimal quantity. Producer subsidies can benefit and can influence both positive externalities, so positive externality of production as well as consumption. Because when you introduce a subsidy, supply goes up, or shifts to the right, or expands to the right, however you want to say it, and therefore quantity moves to Q-opt in both cases here. Regulation, this is probably going to impact every single one here. However, it depends because regulation can definitely really easily influence negative externalities. Positive externalities, we would have to assume that there's already some regulation in place and you can deregulate, so that can be a way to get to the socially optimal quantity. Education can influence the consumption. So both negative externality of consumption, so discouraging people from using it, as well as positive externality of consumption. So educating people on the benefits of vaccines, etc. And lastly, we have government provision. So this could work for positive externality of consumption, because obviously if you are providing something, and let's assume it's for a very cheap price or for free, more people are going to consume it, therefore output increases. The effective output increases. So yeah, this is a pretty simple way to summarize externalities. I hope you enjoyed, and make sure to check out some of our other videos. And yeah, bye bye.